Hello, my name is Alex McVay, and my presentation is on when corporate power is left unchecked. Companies are filling our oceans with plastic, destroying our land for oil, and even caused the death of infants. While it is true that any individual can help the environment on their own, as long as giant corporations remain unchecked, we will not be able to undo the damage humans have created. There are companies drying up rivers, dumping trash and waste into our oceans, and destroying ecosystems either for more space or for more resources. This not only directly affects the environment, but us as well. These companies don't care about who or what they need to hurt as long as they can make the most amount of profit. And not only do they hurt the environment, but they actively trick consumers into thinking that they take far more initiative and action than they do to fix the problems that they caused, and then shift the blame on how we are the main problem. Now, you may think, at the very least, you can recycle to make a lasting positive impact. After all, it's better to recycle a plastic bottle than to just throw it away with it ending up in the landfill, right? Well, according to Plastics for Change, a new OECD report confirms that what in the industry has already been suspected. Less than 10% of plastic is recycled globally. This is for a lot of different reasons, including that in most cases, it is cheaper just to produce new plastic. And all that plastic is sent to landfills or ends up in our oceans. In fact, there is a mass of garbage in our ocean known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is so large that it is double the size of Texas as of 2018. And out of that, 99% of it is plastic with 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic waste. All of this because companies can't be bothered to invest in reusable plastic or other alternatives such as aluminum cans and glass. Well, I mean, at least you can cut down on your carbon emission using like an electric car or a hybrid car instead of a gas one, right? Well, you can, but even if you do, 80% of all the CO2 emissions are from only 57 producers since 2016, with 80% of U.S. primary energy consumption being fossil fuel in 2024. According to the Aardvark Packers, hydraulic fracking from tight oil reserves accounted for the production of 6.44 million barrels of crude oil per day in 2018, or 59% of total American production. Now, what does fracking do to the environment? It uses up vast amounts of water, produces toxic waste with no safe or sustainable way to get rid of it. It has directly damaged at least 979,000 acres of land since 2005 and 2020 to 2024. And it pollutes the air, causing a variety of health problems to the wildlife, including cancer around the oil well. There is another side to this, though. Some people argue that companies have to worry about cost, and they're not wrong in that. In order for a company to be successful, they need to make sure that their costs are lower than their profit. That's just how capitalism works. However, there are still ways to keep costs down while also lowering the amount of harm they cause. For example, there's a company called Liquid Death who sells water and other various drinks. But instead of plastic bottles, they use aluminum cans, like you would see with a soda. unlike plastic bottles, 75% of all aluminum produced since 1888 is still in use. And while yes, these cans do still have a very thin layer of plastic on the inside, it is still 90 times less than a plastic bottle. And it's not mixed with any BPAs, so they can actually melt it down and reuse it again, just like their cans. You may now be wondering, okay, well, if that's the case, then how bad can these bigger corporations really be? I mean, sure, they're causing vast amounts of harm to the environment and producing a lot of pollution, but there's no way they could do something that could, like, I don't know, be the direct cause to anyone's death. But then there's the brand Nestle, known for their candy and foods, who caused an estimated 212,000 deaths among infants whose mothers couldn't access clean drinking water since 1981. They did this by targeting low to middle income countries and aggressively advertising their baby formula as superior to breast milk when it wasn't, and then further misleading consumers about how expensive it is. Even doing so when the country had low literacy rates, making it hard to understand the instructions to mix the formula. And while it was hard for people to get clean drinking water, resulting in infections that often led to death. Nestle is also known for bottling massive amounts of water in drought-prone areas. To quote the BBC, Nestle extracted 36 million gallons of water from a national forest in California last year to sell as bottled water, even as Californians were ordered to cut their water because of a historic drought in the state. They took millions of gallons of water from somewhere, going through a drought, then put it into plastic bottles to sell back to people. We need to hold these corporations accountable. Even if we do everything in our power as an individual, which is still important to help our planet, as long as these companies are allowed to dump plastic into our oceans to save on costs, destroy the earth around us to get some oil, and lie to vulnerable groups of people, our world and ecosystems will never truly be able to heal. We need to hold these companies accountable.